Mediabistro On Demand presents How to Plan a Book Tour. We'll show you how to create, promote, and execute your book tour. First of all, if you're watching this video, you are probably almost done or completely done with your novel or nonfiction book. Good for you. That's a tremendous accomplishment, and you should be very, very proud of yourself. But your work isn't done. Books don't promote themselves, and even if you're with a big publisher, you can't assume that a book tour will be scheduled and laid out for you. The vast majority of authors are responsible for planning their own tours, even if they have the assistance of a publishing house in doing so. Here's what we'll cover. First, we'll talk about how to work with your publisher's publicity department, if you do indeed have a mainstream publisher. Then, we'll talk about how to choose locations. We'll discuss sponsorship opportunities and how that can help you. Finally, we'll talk about how to reach out to the media and to the general public. If your book is going to be released by a major publishing house, ask your editor there if you've been assigned a publicist yet. If not, ask to speak to the head of the publicity department. Let them know you'd like to go on tour to promote your book and ask what they can do to help you. Some publishing houses will be willing to book you into bookstores with whom they already have relationships. Others will offer to help you in reaching out to the media. Some, unfortunately, will not have it in their budget to do either. Nevertheless, you should keep your assigned publicist in the loop every step of the way. Even if your assigned publicist isn't able to offer much support, treat him or her with respect and kindness. If a publicist isn't able to help you much, it's generally not his or her fault. Publicists are often assigned many books at once, and with budget cuts, many of them don't have the time or money to focus on you if you're not already a best-selling author. However, your publicist will be sending out books, responding to media requests, and helping you as much as he or she is able to during the first month of your book's release. So it's very important not to take your frustration out on that person. Whether you're with a major publisher or not, chances are you'll be choosing your own tour locations and most likely paying for the majority of your travels too. When thinking about where to go on tour, choose cities strategically. That means thinking about where you can get the most bang for your buck while still covering a large portion of the country. I like to think about where I have friends I can stay with, which cuts back on hotel costs and makes the trip even more fun. I also think about metro areas that are within driving distance of each other. For example, instead of doing Boston, New York, and DC separately, I would choose to lump them into the same trip and either rent a car or take the bus or train down or up the coast. Finally, you'll want to think about media impact. While it's great to be able to say that your book is going to New York and Los Angeles, you're also less likely to get major media coverage in cities like that, where there are book tours all the time. So make sure you consider smaller cities too, where your stop in town might be more media-worthy. Dropping into Columbus, Ohio, Des Moines, Iowa, Green Bay, Wisconsin, or Jacksonville, Florida, for example, might give you a much higher chance of getting noticed. When thinking about where you'll go on tour, first, think about how much you'll be able to spend. I usually plan to spend at least $1,000, but I also think of this as my opportunity to visit family and friends. Remember, you can write off your travel costs since this is a part of your official book tour. After you've determined a budget, sit down and make a list of all your close friends and relatives around the country who wouldn't mind having you as a house guest for a night or two. Think specifically about those within driving distance of each other. If you have a college roommate who lives outside Boston and an aunt who lives in Queens, then you've knocked out Boston and New York. Ditto for city pairs such as Atlanta and Charlotte, Orlando and Miami, and even Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, if you don't mind doing a little driving. I like to consider at least 3 major areas: the Northeast, the West Coast, and my own home territory, which in my case happens to be Florida. So when I'm thinking about tours, I book as many stops as possible within a 6-hour drive of where I live. Many first-time authors assume that bookstores are their only tour stop options. Not so. In fact, sometimes it's most difficult to get your readers in the door of a bookstore. So if your publisher wants to set up something at a Barnes & Noble or at a local independent store, by all means go for it. But don't be afraid to think outside the box in setting up your own events too. Think about your book's audience, and then try to think of stores that reach that same audience. For me, I target women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, so a clothing or shoe boutique would also be a logical fit. If your book is about sports, perhaps a sports memorabilia store would be a good idea. If it's about music, maybe a restaurant with a music theme would be a good fit. You can also think about bars and restaurants on off nights of the week. Many independently owned locations are willing to host your party in a separate room with drink specials on a night when they're not crowded, such as a Sunday or a Tuesday, often at no charge. Finally, if your book fits well with a national chain, don't be afraid to approach their corporate office. For example, if you've written a book about a woman who goes to Tuscany to learn to cook, maybe Olive Garden would be willing to host events for you across the country.